I'm going to have the PowerPoint up just on this home page here to start, because today we're talking about creating these new pages within our template, okay? It's a very, it's a little bit of an involved process, but once you do it, it lives there. You don't have to do it every single time, and it is a further practice using this idea of comps and props. So components plus properties equals something new on our page, okay? So I'm going to start with our usual beginning by opening up my VS Code and getting my server started. This is me turning on my car. So because you guys were the last class that I demonstrated to, my period 4 folder is already open, but I want to create a new page that lives on my site. And in order to see my site, I need to be in the command prompt. You can do that if you don't see your terminal. It should save. It should like automatically pop up. If it doesn't, but if you go to terminal right up here and then click new terminal, you want to make sure that the drop down says, let me close this guy, this little triangle, launch profile. You want to make sure that it says command prompt, and then we can type our regular starting command, which is npm run dev. Okay. I'm looking for my purple triangle and my 2 green check marks. Once I see that, I can open up my local link by holding control and clicking on localhost, or I can hover over it and click on this blue follow link right here, okay? Then I can split my screen. You can see the Magneto images that I demonstrated to your class in yesterday's video. I'm also gonna close my Explorer so that I have a little bit more room to work here. My site is loaded, okay? So, by default, this template comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate pages, okay? That's when we go to docs and you see all the celebrates on there. You can see something happen over here too in the terminal. When I go to pricing, you're gonna see it says get/pricing after some compiling, blog, about. You can see our terminal is responding when I make a request on the site because we're asking it to do something specific, okay? The template knows where these other 4 pages are, not the home page, because that's the default, because they are in their own folders. You can see right here, if you open up the app, the one that says app, inside of your Explorer, you're going to see subfolders that match the name of the other pages on our site. That means anytime you want to add a new page to this template website, you need to create a folder and a name that generally talks about what that page will do. In this case, it'll be your assignment number 5, because once you deploy this, that's how I'm going to find the work you did on assignment number 5. This is how it starts to become like a notebook check, where you send me the whole website and it's got your different assignments all in it as separate pages. I can look at the website, grade from there, and then if I need to see your code, I'll let you know. Okay? Let me not do that. Let me move this guy over here. Anyways, creating new pages is really simple because all it starts with is a subfolder. So I'm going to click or look at my app drawer. You see how it's got the gray long, or I don't know. The selection goes across the Explorer. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go new folder and I'm going to call this very simply A5. Okay? And then I'm going to hit enter. Now, because it is alphabetically ordered in the Explorer, it might look a little different on the output. So you see that docs comes before pricing, comes before blog, but if we look in the Explore page, the about page comes first, and then the blog page, and then the docs page. We'll get to why that does here in just a second. So if I click on my small arrow next to A5, you're going to notice that there's nothing in there, right? You see how it's dancing, but there's nothing appearing. If I do that for the about page, a page.tsx appears. If I do that for the blog page, a page.tsx appears. If I go to the docs page, page.tsx, page.tsx, okay? We need to, inside of our A5 folder, add a page.tsx. It's always going to be the same because they're all pages written in TypeScript, okay? To do that, really quickly, right-click, new file, and just call it page.tsx. And when you do that, you're going to notice that it opens in a new tab. Let me shut the door real quick. When you do that, it's going to open in a new tab, and they're both going to be called page.tsx, okay? How can we tell which is which? If you look at this little part right here, after the tsx, the ... this is going to tell us what kind of folder that file lives in. Because they have the exact same name, you can also see it across the top right here. But because they have the exact same name, it's going to have a little bit of additional info that this is the page.tsx in A5. Okay? This is the skeleton for how your new pages come together. Because if we look at our code, it's a blank page. There's nothing on here. There's none of this additional fun TypeScript that makes the Magneto images appear. Okay? So, in order for our page.tsx's to work or to do anything, they need to be accessible by our user. So we need to add them to the navigation bar. All right? That is the next step after you've created the folder and the blank TSX page inside of there. Okay? I've been talking a lot about these images as components, as Lego pieces, how they all come together in multiple parts. The navigation bar, where it says home, docs, pricing, etc., is also a component. It's just written in a different spot. You can see that there is, in our Explorer, a folder called Components. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller. A folder called Components here. If we click on that, there is a navbar.tsx, which means our navigational bar. So anytime we want to add something to our navbar, we have to add it to this component right here as an individual prop. Okay, remember back to the yesterday or the video that you watched later? Hi. Props are parts of comps, properties are parts of components, and components are like containers that have the little specific pieces that make them work. Kind of like an engine in your car or a motor in like your electric bikes, your electric scooters, a lot of parts working together to make one thing, okay? We're gonna click on navbar.tsx and we're gonna ignore a lot of this. We're gonna go past the return. We're gonna go past all of this until we find our links. Okay, just kidding. This used to look a little bit different. We used to use a different template for what we're trying to do here. Let me look around for what we're adding here. Okay, we want the top. Where is the logo? Hang on. So using the comments, you can see that this is the desktop link section with the navbar content. Where is what I'm looking for here? Hang on. Shoot, I had it backwards. Okay, so the component part is what builds this navigation bar. When we actually add something to our site, we want to go in the config folder. So if you look right here, there's two things inside of here. There's site.ts. Okay, instead of tsx, it's just ts. This has something called nav items. Now, the reason I looked in components is because these nav items are what that component asks for. It pulls them out whenever the web page gets loaded. What you need to do is go into config and then look for site.ts, okay? What you're gonna see, starting on line number 7, is a bunch of labels and hrefs contained inside of these little brace containers that match up with the names of our other pages. So you're gonna see they start with homepage. The href is just a slash that tells it to look for the page.tsx in the app folder. Remember, that's the same as your index page. Then we have docs up next. This is /docs. You'll see it's slash the name of the subfolder. Next up, we have pricing. You'll see it's slash the name of the subfolder, so /pricing. Then we have blog, which is slash the name of the subfolder. I think you're getting the idea, right? The about page slash the name of the subfolder. If we want to add a new thing to our navigational bar, we need to go at the end of the line. About is last in line over here, and then hit enter and add a new container. So we add a new container with braces, okay? Braces is another word for the curly bracket. So you type braces, enter, and we need to add 2 properties in order for this to work. We need a label and we need an href. The label is for the user to click on. The href is for the computer to find, okay? So for this case, because we're using assignment 5 as our label, that makes our life really easy if we just type out label, colon, space, quotes, and then we're going to call this A5. You can do that. You can spell out the defend the fictional villain if you like. You can just leave it at A5. You can shorten it to defend the fictional villain, right? You can do whatever you want to do on the label, so long as it has the part that says A5, okay? Every time you stop writing properties, like with CSS, you need to separate them with a comma. You need to tell the computer to stop reading. So I'm going to add a comma after my label. My label is done, okay? If I refresh my page, it's going to freak out because we haven't given it everything that it needs for the component to work, okay? We need to also add a link or an href to the new folder that we just added, okay? Which we've named just lowercase a and then a regular 5, okay? href, :space, quotes, like so. And because it's a subfolder, we need to add a slash. Remember, slash for subfolder, okay? They both start with S. All we need to do next is add the letters A5, so long as they exactly match what we put inside of the app drawer. You can see the A5 right here, and then separate it by a comma. Control S. Now you're gonna see on our nav bar, assignment number 5 has appeared right over here. Okay, you can see A5 lives up there. But if we click on A5, nothing happens because there's nothing on the page. We don't have an export function yet. We'll do that in just a second. First things first is we need to go into config site.ts and add one of these containers, which I'll copy and paste onto Canvas after I've finished talking. Copy and paste one of these containers in order for the user to see what to click on with the label and for the computer to see what to find with the href, okay? Think about these like anchor tags from a while ago, where the anchor tag is the part that the user can click on, and then it needs the href attribute or property in order for it to actually find what you're asking for. Okay, so that's the thing I want to make sure you know how to do by the end of today. It's a lot of me talking and it seems like a lot of steps, but once you try it, it's just making buckets in the correct bucket spot for your computer to find. If you want your page to not error out when you click on assignment 5 like mine does, you can see mine freaks out because it does not have a export function, and you don't know how to make an export function because I either haven't taught you, which is the truth, or we want to just focus on the nav bar for now. We can go to a basic page like the about page, for example, and it's got a very simple set of code right here. Again, now here's where you can practice source coding. This is already working. This is already done. Let's copy and paste it and adjust it, okay? So I'm gonna highlight everything, Control C. I'm gonna close the about page because I don't need it anymore and go to my A5 right here. Now if I Control V directly, it's gonna overlap with the about page and it's not gonna love what we've got going on here, okay? The first thing you'll need to change on line number 3 is the name of the function. This is currently saying this is the about page, but we already have one of those. So we need to change the export default function on line number 5, or line number 3, excuse me, to say A5 page, like that, okay? Then, what we'll need to change is line number 6, where it says about. We actually want this to be called A5, and then this is where I am gonna write the full title, Defend the Fictional Villain, like so that when I load up my A5 page, it has a title on the top, like so. Okay. What we have here is a divider container with some basic stuff going on in there. We don't need this paragraph from lines number 7 to lines number 10, so we can delete that. Or if you want to just change the content on lines 8 or 9, we can say this, God, I can't spell, is the placeholder for A5 work. Oop. Okay. Then once I Control S to save, I go back to my output here and I click on A5. Now it has content on the page. We took what we know works, we adjusted it for what is necessary after we put specific instructions inside of specific containers. That's our goal for today, okay? So I'm gonna quickly jet through our PowerPoint so that you can see all these different parts and why you're doing them. And then I'll help you individually, okay? So if we go to this guy right here, our main goal is to add new pages to our site. We're gonna try and set up a Vercel deploy. I don't know if we'll have time. We can probably do that on Monday while we are submitting this assignment, and then working on A5 is just copying and pasting your image work from yesterday, okay? New page practice, and we'll get to the Vercel reminder when we have more time Today's assignments are completing A5, and then I added a spot for your Vercel deploys called Notebook Checks for May. It's a 0-point assignment because it's just you giving me the URL, but we'll get to that on Monday. So don't worry about it for now. I don't think it's even due till May 31st. So it won't show up as missing if you don't do it today. How do you know you're getting it after I help you today? You can create a new subfolder and then a page and then an export function by borrowing the one that's easy from like the About page or the Docs page. Your page loads and renders properly, and we're going to skip Vercel steps for now. You can continue applying what you've learned this week by understanding how these comps and these props work with each other. You can also understand how the nav bar is a totally separate comp or separate component. And you can also start to see how these multiple different functions and components mix together, okay? Why are we doing this? It helps you complete the assignment at the end of the day, ultimately. Sometimes the things that I'm teaching you or the things that I want you to practice do have big, broad implications. They have extra practice for skills outside of my classroom. And sometimes they're just steps we need to do to complete the assignment, okay? And that's what we're working on today. We'll worry about your exit task here in just a second. So what I would like y'all to do is have your server running, have a subfolder with a page.tsx inside of it, and then we're going to try and connect it to the nav bar. Those are our 3 objectives for the day. Okay? So if you haven't opened your VS Code yet, please do that. If you haven't started your server yet, please do that. If you haven't done any of this yet, or anything after that, that's fine. That's what I'm going to help you with. Okay? So let me cut this video. I'm going to start with Sophie since she's closest, work my way around. A5 is going to be very easy to complete because you're practicing these more complicated steps like so. Okay, be right there.